Star Citizen and X4 Foundations are not words I'd ever expected to say in the same sentence, but here we are. So what's going on is that Egosoft have been working with an ex-developer on Star Citizen because they want to completely overhaul the flight model in X4. And to be perfectly honest, that is one of the areas that the game needed to be focused on the most. In my opinion, the flight model is something that needed fixing, as does the UI. Maybe the UI is something that Egosoft can visit in the future. For now though, it's very much about the flight model. This is coming in a new patch 7.5, which is going to be known as the flight model update. Now, if you're familiar with X4, you'll immediately notice that the flight model has improved based just on the footage I've shown so far. Of course, a feel of a flight model is very subjective. It's also very hard to convey in video footage. This footage is taken from the current ongoing public beta, and I can say for sure that the flight model currently feels the best it's ever felt. So, where is that Star Citizen connection? What is that all about? So, Egosoft have partnered with John Pritchett, who's a former senior physics programmer from a Star Citizen development team. Obviously, that's pretty important because regardless of what you think of Star Citizen, whether you're for it or against it, whether you think it's a great game or, needs further refinement, let's put it that way, it is a game that does have a complex world. It does know a lot about spaceships, and there has been a lot of work done on flight models over the years. So seeing that experience translated over into X4 is definitely a good move. Now, like I said, this is currently in a public beta, so if you do have X4 and you want to test it out, I'll include the instructions below on exactly how you can do that. And, I do highly recommend that you give it a try. The official release for this is scheduled in the first quarter of 2025. Now, the flight model is not going to be the only part of the next big update. There are going to be other things as well, and this includes new clusters that will be connecting the Terran and Boran regions, adjustments to the in-game economy, that's always a good thing, and major enhancements to the graphics engine. And this includes, finally, support for DLSS and support for FSR3. And yeah, looking at the game here, it still remains a very, very nice looking game, despite being quite a few years old at this point. A very stunning looking space game. So let's jump a little bit deeper into each of those points, point by point. So the expanded universe 7.5 update will expand the X4 Foundations universe. It's going to do that by adding new clusters. Clusters in this case can be considered entire areas of space in which you can explore. So there'll be new connections here between the Terran and Boran regions, as I said, and as well as several new sectors to explore. The key features here would be that all of this bridges the gap between previously distant areas of space and will therefore offer new exploration opportunities for players. And on top of that, potentially we should see the introduction of new resources or trading routes. Trading routes is almost certain here, considering how people actually play the game. Now, the impact on gameplay would be expanded travel options for players as well as NPCs, of course. NPCs are important because players do have their own fleets of ships, their own NPCs that they direct and control. That also means there should be some new locations for building stations and expanding your empire over time. So, as always, when it comes to X4, the introduction of new connections and new clusters is always a big deal. Now, in terms of the economy, this update will bring changes to the in-game economy, and these could really affect various different aspects of the game. Some potential areas here that may see some adjustments would be supply and demand dynamics, resource availability and distribution, as well as production, chain and efficiency. All of this, of course, will have an impact on the player. Now, the 7.5 update, the flight model update, is not the only future update that's coming to X4 Foundations. As you'll know, Egosoft have worked very hard on X4 ever since the game was released, and that they continue to provide update after update. In many regards, it's probably easily comparable to No Man's Sky in the terms of scope and number of updates that they keep making here. Very, very impressive stuff. So they do have a roadmap here for the next year or so. In the first quarter of 2025, we can expect to see the flight model update. We've discussed that already. In the third quarter of 2025, so a little bit later into the year, we're going to see a diplomacy update. This will bring a new HQ room for hosting faction representatives, introduction of NPC agents, which will allow for diplomatic missions, as well as diplomatic event systems for manipulating faction relations. Now, the details on this are pretty vague at the moment. The Egosoft haven't jumped into too much details, but it's very interesting to know that, we got a pretty big expansion, a big couple of updates coming in 2025. They're also looking beyond 2025 into early 2026, when we can expect to see what Egosoft are calling an exploration update. So here, they plan on including new anomalies, which will lead to so far unexplored sectors, unique discoveries tied to those anomalies, which should be interesting to see, improvements to the long-range scanner, which is going to be interesting because obviously the long-range scanner is essential when it comes to exploration. And on top of that, we can expect to see some exploration-themed missions. There's also another update planned for late 2026, but at the moment this is an unspecified update, although Egosoft classes as a major update. I'm curious whether or not this one will be a paid DLC. It may be. And talking of DLC, you may think that everything we've discussed so far is pretty huge, a lot of content coming to X4, but Egosoft do have some more plans here, what they call mini DLCs. Now, these are a bit of a new approach. They're DLC that's coming alongside the free updates. So the first mini DLC will be coming in the first quarter of 2025, I'll assume alongside patch 7.5. This is going to be a bit smaller in scope compared to previous expansions, but it will feature a reimagined fan-favourite ship from earlier X-series games, and it's also going to include activities related to acquiring the ship and possibly its blueprints as well. There'll then be some future DLCs, although these of course are entirely contingent on the success of the first mini DLC. Egosoft don't want to plan too far ahead on this one just yet because, it's not entirely certain how successful that first DLC is going to be. But obviously, Egosoft do need to keep making some money. They are so far only selling the main game. They do sell some expansions, but X4 itself is not monetized. It's not an online game and doesn't have any monetization inside of it. So yeah, these mini DLCs are going to be a way of Egosoft generating extra revenue. They have said that they're going to be priced lower than full expansions and that they will focus on specific features or additions to the game. Interestingly, it seems that these mini DLCs will be accompanying the free updates that are coming throughout the year, and that the aim here is for these DLCs to complement those free updates. So there we have it. That's where we stand right now with X4 Foundations. A lot of great looking stuff to come. Particularly excited about the new flight model because I think this is going to be a huge deal for X4. If you want to try it out for yourself, do check out the instructions in the video description. You'll pretty much find everything you need to know there. Thanks for watching this video all the way through. There is another one linked on the screen right here if you want to check that out. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.